People ask us, well, what are you? Well, we're Hebraic. We're what the Most High created Hebrew Israel to be, Hebraic. We're purists. By that, we teach the scriptures. What are the scriptures? If I use the English term, it's Genesis to Malachi in your Greek-inspired Bibles. In the Hebrew text, it's Bereshit to 2nd Chronicles. And in the embodiment of that work, it contains the history of Hebrew Israel. We are the greatest nation on the face of the earth. There is no nation as great as Israel. How is that so? The Most High says about Israel, I love you. You got to get this. You got to get this. I love you with an everlasting love. He doesn't say that about any other nation. He has given to us wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rules, regulations, and instructions for us to live by. I want to read something for you, because I'm going to tell you something that I've been saying that came to fruition for me while I was asleep last night. Devarim, that's Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verse 5. This is the heart and soul. This is the heart and soul of Hebrew Israel. This is the heart and soul of Hebrew Israel. Look, Moshe says, I have taught you laws and rulings, just as Yahweh my El ordered me, so that you can behave accordingly in the land where you are going in order to take possession of it. Therefore, observe them, follow them, for then, now listen. For then, what? All peoples will see you as having wisdom and understanding. When they hear of all these laws, they will say, this great nation is surely wise and understanding people. For what great nation in there who has Elohim as close to them as Yahweh our El is? Now watch this now. Watch this. Got to get this one. Whenever we call on him. No. You got to get that. Whenever we call on him. I've been telling you all that honoring, learning, studying, and knowing the laws, the rulings, and the instructions of the Most High are the most important aspect that's germane to your eternal life in this exile and in the world to come. Now watch this. If you start reading in Psalms chapter 1, and you just start reading, in that Psalms there are nothing, that the king doesn't speak about anything but laws, rules, regulations, and instructions. And then he testifies about it. Because of my righteousness and my ways. When he talks about ways, he's talking about Torah, laws, rules, instructions. You, Most High, have delivered me from my enemies, and you keep me safe. Now, I went to bed last night my right eye was killing me. It was throbbing. It was watering. And so I says, well, it'll pass. But it didn't. And so I'm dreaming. Sean, guess what I'm dreaming about? Laws, rules, instructions. And the Most High is teaching me in my head. So I said to him, my eye is still watering, it's dreaming. I said, Yahweh, stop my eye from watering and stop it from aching. Bring it back to where it's supposed to be and let me have perfect rest. You know how long it took for that to happen? Do you know how long it took for that to happen? We have an Elohim, listen, that on the basis of our obey. See, when we read Torah, there's just one central word in Torah. Obey. You're not going to read anything. Obey. Bill Cosby didn't make that word up. The Most High gave us that word. Obey. Obey what? My rules, my laws, my statutes. And then people will see that you have wisdom and understanding. What a wise people we are. You see how great we are? You see how great we are? See how great we are? And on top of it, on top of all that, oh my goodness. Come on.
No, go ahead and stay on up there. I'm just to let you go. You see how they got comfortable over here.
No. You coming. You have to recognize how great of a people you are that have turned back to his way of life. Hey, it don't get no better than that. Sean, can I have another minute?
No. Because you're going to take it anyway if I say yes or no.
Can I have another minute?
Yes,
come on,
you may.
Have another minute.
You don't have to ask me.
Where is it?
Let the Most High work.
Where's it? I gotta find it. Where is it? I gotta find it. I read it last night. Where is it? There is something that is very particular about the Most High that he talks about in Psalms. Come on, how come I can't find it? Every time I want something, I can never find it. Anyway, there in the first few chapters of Psalms, he talks about his law or his Torah is perfect. It's true. It's righteous. It's good. It makes the heart happy. Come on. I said, it makes the heart happy. You want to know how come I can walk in here when I'm feeling good and have a smile on my face? Because I'm happy. And with that, Kohanim Appleton.
Thank you, sir.
I can never find what I'm looking for.
Psalms 119.
No, I wasn't one.
Psalms 1.
No,
Psalms 2.
It's in those first
3.
It's in those first 30 chapters of Psalms. Oh, you don't want this.
Oh, I don't want that.
Okay.
My voice just projects automatically. Shabbat shalom to all of you. Shabbat shalom to all of those that are joining us by way of the stream. This is a beautiful Shabbat. The Most High has ordained for us to honor. It is in text. It is a part of our lifestyle. It is a part of one of the commandments. I say Shabbat Shalom to all of you joining us by way of the stream that are here in our studio audience. Those descendants of ours that will hear this message, that will play it back. This dispensation of time might not be the one that the Most High delivers his people back into right standing. But I say Shabbat Shalom to those that will hear this afterwards. I also say Shabbat Shalom to all our enemies, because we do have them. Do we not? Is Scripture not emphatic about the fact that Hebrew Israel has enemies? We do. Okay? So, hopefully, something would prick the ear of our enemies that the Most High is in control and in command of all. I invite you, before I forget, I want to do this. There's a little bit of a protocol thing that I want to do. I invite you to join us on our social media, on our Ustream, on our Facebook page, on our, do we have an Instagram page? I don't know. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But definitely go to the Facebook page, definitely go to the website, check out the information. We have our music, we have books, we have information that is readily available, and I don't want to forget to do that. But I want to draw special attention to Podbeam. How many of you are on Podbeam and listen to the podcast? We have a premium channel where if you want to actually see the videos of the podcast, it's on the premium channel. So when you go into Podbean, put in Podbean, or at least put in Hebrews in Exile Premium, and then you'll see it. So I encourage you to go there. We will continue our discussion probably on the last verse of the last sentence, because our esteemed leader took all my time today. So we'll just start there. That is a joke. Wow. Come on, guys. You got to stay with me. Sharp. That was my ill-fated attempt at leviticity. We are going to continue our study in the book of Shoftim. Shoftim is the book of Judges. And in the book of Judges, we have a couple styles of individuals. Just for a little bit of review, we have the actual judges. These are individuals that when something comes up in Hebrew Israel, they go to the judges. The judges make a determination. They carry out that determination. They're kind of overseeing the leadership of Hebrew Israel. We actually have prophets. We have malaks, which are angels. And then we have saviors that are in here. We are learning about one of our major saviors for the Hebrew Israel people, whose name is Yerubbaal. Yerubbaal. Does that not ring a bell? His name is Gideon. Okay? I'm going to try to attempt today to change your whole entire outlook on how you see this person, because we have the culmination of Gideon's life in these 2 chapters. Okay? Now, I want to appeal to everybody that grew up in the old church. And when I mean the old church, I mean that old-timey church, Christian, Baptist, Episcopalian. How many of you grew up Kojic, Bible Way? Come on, PAW. What am I up here carrying this around like it's a lantern? I don't know. Was this a nervous twitch? Or I'm just trying to provoke Zildjian. I need some symbols. What can you tell me that we learned in the old church about Gideon? Not everybody speak up at one time. Okay, so you learned that he destroyed his father's idols. What did we learn about Gideon? Tell me about him. What do you know about him? He had an army of 300 men. Okay. All right, so all of y'all, I can just go sit down because you just took all my thunder away today. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your lives. He was poor, but I don't know anybody that has 10 personal servants that's poor. That's doing really well for poor. But I'm telling you, if that's anything of how Hebrew Israel rolls, even in our state of being poor, we're rich. What else do you know about him? Let me fill in some gaps. He did. He did refuse to be king. Okay. Gideon is from the tribe of Manasseh. He claims to be one of the poorest. He's a very young man, okay? He's not an older person. Keep in mind, Gideon is one of these individuals that when the angel showed up and gave him his commission, he tested the angel. And he asked him a couple questions to have him prove that, yes, you're calling me a valiant hero. Well, I want to challenge your pedigree on who you are right now. Gideon does that, okay? Gideon is a warlike-minded individual, okay? I want to dispel what we came out of in Christianity about, and I'm going to keep harping on this turn the other cheek, getting browbeat, I'm a doormat attitude that we got over there. Hebrew Israel is not a people that lays down like a doormat. Every time that the Most High delivers Hebrew Israel, it is in a state of military prowess. Okay? We are not getting beat up. Oh, let's just love each. No. We have an agenda, and the Most High asks us to carry it out. And if you're in the way, then good luck with that. Is that what the young people say? Good luck with that. So, let's get into this. Let's get into this. Shoftim, chapter number 7 and chapter number 8. Matter of fact, before we do that, I introduced him as his name was Yerubbaal. What does that mean? What does Yerubbaal mean? We talked about it last time I got up here. Gideon's name, after he destroys this idol, this Baal tower, they give him the name Yerubbaal, which means let Baal defend. And remember when we talked about it and we substituted and we said, listen, if your Yeshua be who he is, then why do you need to defend him? You don't need to defend him at all. When the Most High fights, he does it. Does he not? Thank you. That is the pattern. Let's look at the Most High's pattern. We see him in a place of actually directing individuals and carrying out a military conquest over and vanquishing the enemies of Hebrew Israel. We see that throughout the whole entire set of scriptures. And then we take a 400-year dirt nap, and now we just want to turn the other cheek when we step across the street into the New Testament. That doesn't seem like the Most High's character. All right. Chapter 7 and 8. Let's go over this. We're going to go over our overview real quick, and then we'll get right into the chapters. Shoftim, chapter 7. Yahweh picks his army to conquer Midian. All right. I keep taking these little sidebars real quick because you guys have been with me since we started the book of Shoftim. Is there a particular savior, judge, or prophet that you've seen thus far in Shoftim that you like the most? Deborah. With her shut your mouth bad self. Deborah. Gideon's a good one. Gideon's a really good one. I wouldn't classify Gideon as a judge. He's more of a rescuer or a savior for the people of Hebrew Israel. Gideon is foretold of his victory, and then Gideon scares the Midians to death. And it's not necessarily Gideon. Actually, that is misquoted. Yahweh actually scares Midian to death. That's in chapter number 7. Chapter number 8, Ephraim complains about not being called to the fight. So we're fighting the Midianites. The tribe of Ephraim confronts Gideon and says, or Yerubbaal, and says, listen, we're a little upset that you didn't ask us to join in. I'm stealing my own thunder. Gideon asks for rations while pursuing the more Midianites. Gideon captures, that's not how you spell captures, folks. Carpenters? No. The Midian kings. Gideon teaches the men of Sukkot and Penuel a really bad lesson. All right, let's get into this. Chapter number 7. We're just going to throw that up on the board because I'm just going to go through it. You're going to go through it with me. All right? We start out this particular chapter, chapter number 7, with Yerubbaal and all the people going up, because now in the previous chapter, in chapter number 6, he's been given the commission. He's proved, the pedigree has been proven that, yes, I'm the guy that's going to lead everybody. He commissions everybody. They come down and help. And now we're at the point where he's gathering everybody together. They're setting up camp, and the Midianites are to the north of them. Yahweh says to Gideon, listen, you brought, and you mentioned it earlier, Sister Cheryl, 22,000 people with you. That's too many. We need to whittle that down because of one reason and one reason alone. And I want you to look at this because it's going to come up, because if don't nobody else get happy up here today, this is going to be a monumental teaching today, because you might just see me pick a bale of cotton and roll around up and down these aisles, because I might get happy a little bit later on today. Wow. That will be a feat. He has 22,000 people with him. 10,000 are going to remain after they have been weeded out by the Most High. And the reason this is because listen to what happens in verse 2. He says, Yahweh said to Gideon, there are too many people with you for me to hand the Midian over to them, because I don't want what? Israel to be able to boast against me that what? We saved ourselves by our own strength. So I'm going to show you who's really in control when we take on all of our enemies. Keep that in mind. Jumping down to verse 4. It says, Yahweh said to Gideon, there are still too many people. Matter of fact, and the reason why the 12,000 had left, they had asked the question, or at least Gideon had said to them, hey, listen, are all of you that are anxious or afraid to go into war, just go home. We want warriors. Just go home. So after he made that appeal, 12,000 of them out of the 22,000 left, and we're only left with 10,000. The Most High says now, hey, listen, there's still too many of the people with you. There's still too many people in this army. We need to whittle this down. Most High says, if I go ahead and I segregate these people, it says, listen, if I say this person won't go, they won't go. If I say this person will stay, then they'll stay. But this is how we're going to weed through this. It says, put on one side everyone who laps up water with his tongue the way a dog does. But put to the other side everyone who gets down on their knees to drink. 300. All right. 300 lapped, putting their hand to their mouth. All the rest of the men got down on their knees to drink water. Let's stop there. I had a question for myself, and I said, why did the Most High use that example to weed them out? Why do you think he did that? Now, I want to always, when I get up here and I talk, I always like to do something that Christian pastors won't do. They won't tell you this is them talking. This is me talking. This is not in text. You're not going to find this anywhere. This is my best speculation on what I think might have been the reason why the Most High did this. So you've got men we got to weed out these people out of this 10,000 down to 300. All the men that got out on their knees to drink water like a dog were eliminated. There were only 300 that left that took the water, lapped it up with their hands and drank it. Why? Why did we use that example to get rid of them? Good. I need warriors. And I asked my son the question. I said, you got to have people that are aware of their surroundings. You got to have people that are ready for war at all times. There's 300 of us that are getting ready to go into war, and I need the most alert people on the face of the world at this time. 300 of them were the only ones that did it. And I said to myself, I asked my son this question. I said, even in the animal kingdom, name me an animal that goes to a watering hole and gets down on its knees to drink. Not a one. They all stand. Why? Because they're ready. They're ready to move. These are your ancestors we're talking about. Stop looking in them in a diminutive attitude. Okay? That's me talking. All right? But let's get back into text. All right. So, 300 men stayed. 300. And when I heard this number ringing in my head, maybe a lot of you will be able to attest to this, but when you know something and you need to go somewhere, especially when you're talking about text, the Most High took me to a movie when I heard the number 300. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? There's a famous line that's said in there. Right before that melanated man got kicked in that hole. He says what? This is Sparta. Pow! Poof. All his compadres fall down that hole. And I said, man, the more and more I read Gideon, the more and more I see this movie. I'm sitting here saying to myself, now, let's be clear. Let's be clear. Gideon or Yerubbaal happens thousands of years before this 300 thing happened. Because 300, the movie 300, is based on a comic book. The comic book is based on a true story. It is the story of the Battle of Thermopylae. So, let's get some perspective here, because what you got to understand is that your Yahweh is sending 300 men into battle against 120,000 men. You find that number out when you get into the next chapter in chapter number 8. It's 300 against 120,000. Okay? Remember that. Whew. The story of 300, let's kind of talk about that for a little bit, because it's been glorified, because what? This movie is the quintessential cornerstone paragon of resplendence. It's very ostentatious. Let's use all the big words that we can use right now to describe what courage is, what patriotism is. It gave you a sense of pride when you watched the movie to say, I will defend my land with my life if I have to. And it glorified these individuals. That movie has been elaborated, or at least exaggerated, quite a bit. So let's talk about the 300, the real story. In the year 490 BCE, there was an actual war that happened between the Grecian Empire and the Empire of Persia. The Persian Empire was headed up, or was led by an emperor or a king, King Darius I. The Grecian Empire was actually headed up by, King Darius, this isn't where I want to go. King Darius I, for the Persian army, attacked Greece in 490. They lost that battle at the Battle of Marathon against the Athenians. 10 years later, or a decade later, Persia tries this again to take over the Grecian country. Now, there is a king that's in place. That is in the movie 300. That king's name is King Xerxes I. Okay? That's the big guy in the all gold. He's like 10 feet tall in that movie. That's Xerxes I. There are two battles that are happening when Xerxes goes out to war against Greece. There's two major battles that happened. All right? There's one that happens that's led by a gentleman by the name of Themistocles. Themistocles is a general, and he's fighting one of these battles at Artemisium. All right? And it's a naval battle. The second battle that's happening at the same time is a battle that's being led by the Grecian army, which is led by King. This is Sparta, Leonidas, King Leonidas. That's that guy. It's an actual person. Now, in the movie, it shows this small band of individuals. But in real life, King Leonidas had 7,000 men. All right? Now, there is a person in that movie that's all deformed, and he goes and talks to the Persian or Xerxes and says, hey, listen, because at this point, it's a 3-day war that started. On the second day, the Persians are getting kicked so bad because King Leonidas has got them in a chokehold where they have to come through this specific pass in order to get even to the Grecian army. So he's got them in a choke point with the high ground. So on the second day, a local resident, the movie shows it was an actual deformed Spartan. It wasn't. It was a local resident. His name is Ephialtes. Ephialtes goes to the Persian army and says, I know a back way in to get to the Grecian army. King Leonidas hears of this. And then what he does is he says, I'm going to send, think about how I'm making a relationship to what's going on over here. I need to send some of you away. Out of the 7,000, only 2,300 people remained. Where you get the number 300 for the comic book and for the movie is because out of that 2,300 people, there were 300 Spartans. But it was a confederation of all these Grecian territories coming together to fight. Okay? Why am I making this correlation? Because what I'm trying to tell you is that scholars will tell you that the Grecian army of the 20 or the 7,000, if you use that number, was going up against 300,000 men. And this is one of the things in our society, and we say, listen, look at the valor. These men are willing to fight to the death because King Leonidas didn't win. They all died fighting the Persians. Look at this valor. Look at all of this. Okay? This is the standard. And you feel that from the movie. Okay? But I want to give you some edification. Because if you think 7,000 men going up against 300,000 men is something, what does that average out to? That means that every man out of that 7,000 people had to kill 40 guys. To vanquish the Persian army of 3,000 men, the 7,000 men of the Grecian army had to kill 40 people per person. Actually, the number is 42. Now, let me tell you about your ancestor, Gideon. He's going up against an army, 300 of them, against 120,000. That means that every man, every one of those 300 men had to kill 400 men. All of the 300 returned safely. Do the numbers. You are glorifying something, and I'm not bringing anything diminutive to what happened in history, but what I'm trying to tell you is that look how opulent and your people are. You aren't taught this. Look at what you told me. Gideon was this. Gideon was that. Gideon led a band of warriors. Gideon is not to be fooled with. Okay? He has the Most High with him. I saw this yesterday and I got happy in my spirit because the Most High actually gives me stuff like right before I go to teach. I was in the bathroom and the Most High said, why are you evaluating what I'm doing with a people through the eyes of what you're reading? You immediately got it. You look at me and you have an idea of me, of my power through what I've done in the past. You Hebrews have no idea what the Most High is going to do for you when he has to deliver you back into the land. Let's just run a hypothetical, shall we? Let's just say tomorrow all of Hebrew Israel gets it. And we got to go back. Okay? It's not going to click our heels 3 times like Dorothy and wind up back in the land like this is the Wizard of Oz. We are going to have to travel back to the land. Now I'm going to talk about you folk here in the United States because I don't know what they got outside the United States. But let's just talk about what we got here. Tell me how we are going to deal with the FBI. Tell me how we're going to deal with the CIA. Tell me how we're going to deal with the DEA. Tell me how we're going to deal with an army, the Homeland Security, the Marines, the Green Berets, the Air Force. Okay? Do you think Israel in its state right now is able to take on that? What did the Most High say right in the first paragraph? I'm whittling this down to 300 because so you will know I'm in control. If you do that right now, you couldn't even fathom it. They have drones. They have microphones that can hear. I'm going to say something that's going to be funny. That can hear a mouse fart over in Asia. I don't know what they have. Secret stuff. But trust me, do you believe that a band of Hebrews getting together saying we're going to go march back into the land is not going to be an act of terrorism? Social media? All these things are going to come against your descendants that will probably experience this. So put your mind in that state. You look at it like, oh, he just parted some water. And I'm going to tell you what, for those of you that are going to come against Hebrew Israel, you already know what the Most High is packing. Because he don't need your bullets. These folk have what? They have whatever kind of gas. The Most High will do something with the atmosphere. Make some type of radioactive cloud so they can't see you. All communications will be cut off. He'll use the elements to clog up everything. So all forms of communication and whatever is being manufactured is going to be thwarted. He will use the earth to destroy you. What are we going to be doing? Sitting back in a lawn chair with a big tub of butter popcorn and a half-eaten turkey leg looking at it. Just like they did where? You think it's funny? Just like they did in Goshen when they watched all them Egyptians get tore up. What was we doing? Wow, they just loud. We were having a big barbecue. So think of it that way. I got to change the way that you look at your ancestors. You got to be shown that there are an opulent people. I got to get moving. Oh boy. Can you believe I did all that and we only on verse 9? All right. So we're down to 300 men. Now what happens is Yahweh speaks to Gideon and tells him to get up because I've already handed this group of people already over to you. And it says, if you are afraid, let me confirm it for you. He takes his servant with him and he goes down to the camp of the Midianites. And while he's going down to the camp, he encounters two Midianites and they're having a discussion. And the one is talking to the other one about a dream. It's actually in Shoftim chapter 7, verses 13 through 14. And this is what this one individual, so you got to see what happens here is that Gideon and his compadre, his comrade, are coming down to spy on the Midianite army. And as they get there, he sees two individuals having a conversation and he's overhearing it. And this is what's said. It says, I just now dreamt that a loaf of barley bread fell into the camp of Midian, came to the tent and struck it hard that it overturned the tent and knocked it flat. His comrade answered, this can only be the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, a man of Israel. Elohim has given Midian and all its army into his hands. He just heard doubt from individuals, and probably at that time, word traveled extremely fast about at least the Hebrew army that was coming. Verse 15. The interpretation of this dream made Gideon fall down on his knees. He got on his knees and he cried out to Yahweh. And the Most High said, get up because Yahweh has handed Midian's army over to you. Yerubbaal divides the 300 men into 3 different companies. They go down in the middle of the night. When is the middle of the night? It is not 12 midnight. Because we do understand that we are on a Gregorian system, not a Hebrew system. Nighttime starts when it is completely dark, and it goes to when the sun hits the horizon. Okay? Complete darkness. So wherever the middle of complete darkness is, that's not 12 midnight. Because as we know, in the wintertime, the nights are longer. Okay? So that will shift. So I don't know what time of the year it is. I just want to just throw that in there because, again, we just got to keep our minds on the fact that everything that we kind of are touching has been tainted, and it's not a part of our culture. It's not a part of our Hebrew culture, from the names of the days of the week to the names of the months of the year to your 2022 year that you use. Right? It's a Catholic number. It's 2022 years from Christ. Right? Okay? If you go the other way, when I said in year 490, then 10 years later I said 480, you count down to Christ. That's how those numbers work in your years. That's not how, did the Most High ever say, I'm going to change the year system. So it won't be the top of the year for you anymore. When my son comes in some years, we're going to change it. No, it's never said. All right? Just keep you aware. Verse 19. Gideon and 300 men arrived in the middle of the night. What they do is, in one hand, in their left hands, they have torches and pitchers. And the other ones they shofars. They surround the camp. They blow the shofars as Gideon instructs them to do. The Most High sends all of the, I was going to say the Persian, but all of the Midianite army into a panic, one killing another. The 2 kings, a part of this particular company, actually flee. And Gideon is in hot pursuit. Verse 23, the men of Israel are summoned after this battle because obviously we've vanquished a lot of people here, and Naphtali and Asher and Manasseh are asked to join the fight. Come down from the hills and attack the Midian and capture the rivers before they get there, as far as Bet Barah and also the Yarden. That's the message that's sent. They're in hot pursuit of 2 kings. The 2 kings' names are Oreb and Ze'ev. The last verse of this particular is where I'm at right now, is verse 25, before we transverse into chapter 25, says this. They also captured the 2 chief of Midian, Oreb and Zerev. They put Oreb to death at the rock of Oreb and Zerev at Zerev's winepress. Then they kept pursuing Midian. They brought the heads of Oreb and Ze'ev to Gideon, who had crossed to the far side of the Yarden. That concludes chapter number 7. Chapter number 8. Ephraim now is going to go complain because they said, listen, you asked our brothers, tribes, to come and fight, but you never asked us. And Gideon responds back to him and says, hey, now, he says, listen, verse 2. He answered by saying to them, how can what I have done be compared with what you've done? Aren't the grapes Ephraim leaves on the vines better than the ones that of Avizer harvest? Elohim handed over Midian's chiefs, Oreb and Zerev. What could I do to match what you did? And I'm thinking to myself, why did he answer him like that? Listen, I went and I just got these 2 kings and we killed them, okay? You are supplying food for a group of people that are starving and dying in the hills. What does my conquests have to do with you keeping a whole entire people alive. Okay? So stop it. Stop trying to compare the two. He's talking to his brother, trying to calm him down. Now, I'm going to make that clarification too. That's my interpretation of it. I don't know why. Didn't ask Gideon why he asked that specific question, and text doesn't say why he asked that question or the reasoning behind it. I'm just trying to put two and two together to say, look at the conditions of what Hebrew Israel was in, and he's saying that you guys are the agriculturists that everybody goes to. Your harvest is the biggest one. You're helping keeping people alive. We just executed a plan that the Most High had. Just kill these guys. Can't be compared. Okay? Verse 4 says, by now, Gideon and the 3,000 men had crossed over the Jordan, and they were exhausted from pursuing their enemy. They went to Sukkot, and they asked the people of Sukkot for bread. And they said, you haven't finished the job first. We ain't giving you nothing till you come back with something, bruh. He says, listen. He said, Gideon said to them after they had spoken to him about that particular topic that he didn't agree with, he says, if that is your answer, then Yahweh has put Zavak and Zalmunna in my hands. I will tear your flesh apart with desert thorns and thistles. I'm thinking to myself, where is this? Do I see a Torah mitzvot that's here? Yes and no. And the reason why my mind went to a Torah mitzvot right here is because really I wanted to go back to Devarim chapter number 25, verse 1, where it talks about you humiliate somebody if you give them more than 40 lashes as a judge. But if you read the pretext that's in there, it's talking about if one of the brethren come in there and you have a dispute, a judge goes ahead and makes a determination, and then you flog them, and then you give them no more than 40 lashes. This is a little different of a situation. And again, maybe not, but I'm trying to think, okay, what does the text mean here? I don't have the answer. What does the text mean when it actually says he's going to tear their flesh apart? How? My mind just goes to stuff like that, trying to figure out, just to get a clear picture of what's going on. And the only thing I could come up with is he actually flogged them. And I'm giving away the rest of the chapter because that's what does happen. Okay. He goes to another city after that, after they didn't feed the army, the city of Punuel, and he gets this Punuel. He gets the same type of answer. He says, when I come back, I'm going to break down this tower that you have here, you idol worshipers. Verse 10, Zavak and Zalmunna were in Karkor with an army. Now, what did I tell you earlier? How many men did they go up against? I told you 120,000. That's not true. Because I just now saw it again. It's 135,000. Okay? Because here's where you get that number. Said, so I apologize for misquoting the text earlier. It wasn't 120, it's 135. Because it says, what does it say here? It says their army, about 15,000 men, all that remained of the entire army of people from the east since 120,000 armor-bearing soldiers had fallen. 220,000 already had died. They're still working on this last 15,000. Okay, maybe y'all don't get it. Okay. Did you not hear the number I told you? Everybody had to kill 400 people. You couldn't, listen, y'all have a problem going outside digging a ditch, let alone having to go and do a whole bunch of whatever moves that they're doing. Kicking people in the neck, choking them out. I got to grab a knife. I got to throw this over here. I only got 4 limbs, and 2 of them got to be planted on the ground. Okay? 400. Now we're talking about 400 plus. These are your ancestors. If you watch the movie 300 and come away with a sense of pride and a sense of courage that these people had, look to this first. Because at the end of that movie, all of them died. These 300 came back to their wives. Okay, maybe that won't preach, but okay. Moving on. All right, 13, verse 13. Gideon goes on, the son of Joash, and returned from battle. He captured a young man from Sukkot. And this man from Sukkot, I'm going to tell you what, this man had to be, the Most High was on this individual, because I can't remember where I left my car keys 5 seconds ago. And he asked this man, he says, who are the names of the leaders of those of Sukkot? He gave him 77 names. How many of y'all in here can name the last 15 presidents? This dude named 77 of them. I don't even know who's on the city council here. So to be able to remember these names, Most High had to be on this individual to give him some type of remembrance like that. So at any rate, he goes back to the people of Sukkot. He said, you've insulted me. He takes them out into the desert and teaches them. And that's all the text says, verbatim. It says, took them out in the desert and beat them with desert thorns and thistles and used them to teach the people of Sukkot a lesson. He then also broke down the tower of Punel and put the men of the city to death. Is Gideon? Shut your mouth. We're just talking about Gideon. Gideon is not to be played with. And this is not an older man. This man is not probably 19, 20 years old. Okay? Now, then he said to Zavak and Zalmunna. So he's got the whole entire army is dead. And they usually, that's kind of one of the things that you notice when you're reading text is that Hebrew Israel is like, when you go ahead, when your mama cook you some food, I'm looking dead at you because you're sitting next to your mama. When your mama cook you some food and you're like, yes, this is great, Mom, but you start picking that stuff that you like the most on that plate, all right? And then sometimes maybe you might save the best for last, okay? Hebrew Israel has a way of saving the best for last. We're going to kill everybody. We're going to talk to you two kings. You don't have anybody left, so there's nowhere to run to, so where you think you're going, but okay. They save these two kings. And he says, listen, tell me about the people that you killed at Tavor, because some of those people that you killed at Tavor are my kinsmen. You actually killed some of my brothers there. Had you have spared their lives, I would spare yours. So I'm not even going to bother. He goes to his oldest son, which is named Yetur. And he tells Yetur, he says, take your sword out and kill these two kings. Yetur is too afraid. So the kings say, listen, let a man do a man's job. Don't send a boy to do a man's job. If you want to kill me, then you kill me. No problem. And that's what Gideon does. He goes over and he kills the two kings. Now, verse 22 says, the men of Israel said to Gideon, rule over us. Okay, we're going to read this verbatim because I want you to understand something here. This is a big sign, monument. You have to understand this concept moving forward, okay? If you don't get this concept, you're going to be lost. We're going to read it verbatim, and then we're going to go slow, all right? Let's start at verse number 22. This is a concept that's going to come up because when the self-appointed king Abimelech shows up, this is going to come up again. Verse 22, the men of Israel said to Gideon, or Yoruba'al, rule over us, you, your son, your grandson. I'm saying that even louder. Your grandson, because you saved us from the power of Midian. Gideon replied, this is the concept you need to get. Neither I nor my son will rule over you. Yahweh will rule over you. Not only does this set up something else that comes over, but this is also a concept that we need to continue to keep in our minds. This dude down here don't rule over you. What does it say? Your ancestors spoke wisdom to this people, and he said what? He said Yahweh will rule over you. Then he added, but I have this request to make of you. That, before I even go any further, I wanted you to get that into your spirit, okay? Because when I do the rest of the teachings, I'm going to refer back to this so you understand this concept. Nobody from the lineage of Gideon is going to rule. He's speaking this out into the atmosphere over Hebrew Israel. The only ruler of Israel is Yahweh. Now, if you already know that we already in the book where they what? They get good and they jack up. They get good and they jack up. It's just this up and down. You can almost tell what's getting ready to happen. It's foreshadowing, what they call in the thespian world of theatrics. He says this, he goes on, he says, but I have this request to make of you, that each of you would give me the earrings from the booty, which is the spoils you have taken. Now, since the soldiers wore gold earrings, what the text goes on and says is that Yerubbaal laid out a robe, and the men went ahead and gave all of the earrings that they had from the conquest, and they put them in this robe, and it measured out to 42 pounds. So you know what we do when we go and we have numbers like that? We got to put it in today's money. Because what did we do when we saw that the Most High had gathered all of this, and Moshe said, stop bringing me money. All you rich people, stop it. We got enough already for the tenor meeting. And we valued that tenor meeting at what? At $60 million for one room. Okay? There's no room on the face of the earth that's worth that much now, or probably will ever be. 42 pounds of gold. What is 42 pounds? What is a pound of gold worth in today's money? It's worth $1,430. So if you do the math, 42 times 1,430, you will get 60,060 in today's money. So that's what Yerubbaal gathered for sitting back and letting the Most High do the work. 60 grand would be in today's money if that was to happen today, if you received 42 pounds of gold. He said he went and took that gold and he turned a bit of it into a ritual vest, which he located in the city of Ophrah. But then Israel turned it into a what? An idol. And it became a snare to Gideon, kind of mocking him. Now that Midian was defeated, we have also this institution of now our beautiful period of peace, where there's now another 40 years of peace in the land. Text never says that Gideon was a judge. He's a savior. He delivers the children of Israel, the empire of Israel. Come on, just stay with me, just work with me. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about progress, not perfection. So I did say children there, but it's the empire, the dynasty of Israel. Okay? All right. Whew. 30, on the way out. There was peace in the land for 40 years. That Yerubbaal, the son of Joash, or Gideon, returned home and stayed there. 30 is probably, the verse 30 is probably going to have an area of contention because it goes against all forms of cultural norms today. But it says that Gideon returned home, and Gideon became the father of 70 sons. Hebrew Israel is no foreigner to... This is a family hour. 70 sons. But that's what the text says. I'm just reading text. Because the next part is where it goes against a bunch of cultural norms. because this is a norm in the culture of Hebrewism. Okay? It says because he had many wives. Now, there will be a day where we are going to have to deal with a teaching on relationships and what a Hebrew relationship looks like during that dispensation of time that they were in, weighed against the Torah mitzvot that govern that, and what is pertinent in our culture and society today. That has to be vetted, and I think we need to have something like that, because the climate of what's going on today with relationships between men and women, husbands, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, how does this all work? How does this play into the idea of what the Most High has ordained over here? How do we walk in righteousness and be a set-apart people if we don't understand how a relationship works within the confines of Torah? The confines of what a Hebrew relationship should look like. The role of what the man has. The role of the woman. Okay? Not to devalue each responsibility that each one has. Okay? We got to do that. We got to get to that point. And why I'm up here talking like that? Because this man back here is shaking his head at me like, yeah, that'd be a good thing for you to do, to put together. That will be on the horizon. Had several wives, and this is the part that's doing some foreshadowing. See, also had a concubine in Shechem. Now, I had made a note here, and I said a concubine is not a Hebrew. And I said, you'll understand this more when we get into chapter 9. This woman wasn't a Hebrew. That was his concubine. And that's going to be part of the reason why things happen the way they do. She bore him a son, and his name was Avimelech. Avimelech is an interesting character. He's coming up next. Gideon, and the son of Joash, died at a ripe old age and was buried in the tomb of his father of Joash. But as soon as Gideon, Jerubbaal was dead, the people of Israel again went astray after Baalam and made Baalam Brit, which now they've made a covenant and an oath with this thing to be their Elohim. They forgot. If y'all don't see yourselves right now, where y'all are, in 33 through 34, I don't know what. If you don't know, this is you. We're talking about you right now. Okay? So, it says as soon as Gideon was dead, the Hebrew Israel that is located on the world in 2022 went astray after Baalam. Christianity, went after, don't look at my abs, just read the shirt. Went after Christianity as the Elohim and forgot Yahweh, their Elohim, who had saved them from the transatlantic slave trade, who saved them from the Arabian slave trade, who let them stay through the atrocities that have happened throughout the world to them, who've been oppressed, so on and so forth and so on. Something like that. It says, and forgot Yahweh Elohim, who saved them from the power of their enemies on every side. And they showed no kindness toward the family of Jerubbaal. That is Gideon to repay him for all the good that he had done for Israel. That is the conclusion of chapter number 8. I hope if you didn't see anything else today, you saw a clearer picture or a more redefined picture of your ancestor, Yerubbaal or Gideon. If all you know about Gideon is when I go to the Motel 6 and I look in the top drawer and all I see is a Gideon's Bible there, if that's all you know about that, go play this for your friends. Just get them up to speed, the current events on what's going on. Gideon is a military leader. He's young. He obeys the Most High. The Most High entrusted him with an army. He had the resolve that we need to have. If the Most High said tomorrow, let's go back. You can't be looking at, I got to go against the Green Berets. I got to go against all this stuff. Yes, we already know that you're going to have to do that, but you don't have to do the fighting, because if Most High told you to move, don't you think he already had it worked out on how he's going to do it already? He's not like you who's sitting there saying, oh, okay, well, let me go ahead and try to figure this out right now. When I told your behind to move, I already had it figured out already. All I need you to do is just walk the path. What is so difficult about that? Because no, you want to have your hands on the wheel. We got to start getting comfortable with letting the Most High take control of Hebrew Israel and delivering us to where we need to be. We can't do that unless you take your hands off the wheel of Christianity and put them on your lap and let the Most High drive the car. Okay? Your ancestor has so much gravitas. And I'll leave you with this. If you thought that Gideon was a bad shut your mouth, wait till we get to Shimshon. In other words, Samson. Wait till we get to Samson. Samson looks like had something that you three have. You have. Samson had locks. Samson wasn't playing around either. If you thought that, oh, I had to kill 400 people being a part of the army of Gideon, how many do you think Samson takes out in one seating by himself? Wait till you get to your ancestor Samson or Shimshon in the book of Shoftim. Again, hopefully something was said here today that will edify you, that will bring you closer to your walk with the Most High, to help you be intrigued about the things that are in Scripture, that helps you redefine how the Most High has his vision of us, that we are opulent people, that we walk in excellence, that it's about progress, not perfection. The Most High will fill in the gap between progress and perfection. That's what he's there for. I admonish all of you to stay grounded and rooted in text. Okay? I haven't figured everything out. I may be wrong about a couple of different things. I'm not beyond reproach. But it's about progress, not perfection. Truth matters. And truth don't care about your feelings. His first cousin facts don't care about your feelings either. Whether you're happy about what you heard or whether it upsets you. It's just truth. So with that, I want to admonish all of you. Thank you for joining us today here. We have some awesome things coming up here at FTF. I'm excited because we're going to try to make this thing worldwide. We are going to expand. I'm birthing that into the atmosphere to you first. We're going to make this thing worldwide. All right. To all my Hebrew kinsmen, brethren, sisters, Yivarekaka, Yahweh, Veishmareka, Ya'er Yahweh Panav Eleka Vihuneka, Yisa Panav Eleka Viyasham Leka Shalom. Which just simply says, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh lift up what? His face towards you. May your Elohim acknowledge you that he doesn't turn his back on you. May he lift up his face toward you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine on you, to show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face toward you and give you shalom.